Hi, this is Dr. Randy Hurst. If you've seen any of these videos, you'll know that these are just very basic education videos. I do a fair number of them on alcohol, other addictions, because that's a big part of my background. But I found that there are many other kinds of problems that fit very well with the same information that I used when I was working in treatment. And then continued to use those ideas working with people with anxiety problems, some kinds of depression. Yeah, just a whole variety of old history issues that continue to just work inside somebody. If you've seen other videos, you will have probably seen some that refer to what I call the monster-making metaphor, and others that have to do with wired-in patterns in terms of how the brain wires in a pattern and becomes a much more automatic pattern that then is hard to change, hard to rewire, so to speak. So this particular one it refers to the monster of, in some cases, anxiety, fear kinds of reactions that people will have. In other cases, reward, like alcohol abuse, alcoholism, addictions, overeating, gambling, spending. Those are the reward-based kinds of things. So if you try to make changes to a reward-based pattern, or the craving to go back to that thing that felt good, it can be huge. If you've done it for years, it can be a very kind of wired-in pattern in the brain that makes it particularly difficult to change. If you have an anxiety, you can have these triggers that just bring up fear, can bring up a sense of stress, of panic, a struggle with uncertainty that can pull you back to the old fear avoidance pattern, because that's typically what happens with anxiety problems. Is we do whatever we can to avoid that feeling, those situations, those people. So the monster is the avoidance, or the monster is going for that reward. And it gets worse when we try to change. Partly because just changing, early in the process, just changing leaves us uncertain, especially if the pattern is developed over many, many years, sometimes decades. Some people haven't been a non-drinker for 10, 20, 30 years, or have always given in to their impulses to spend or to eat or to gamble. And how do you not do that? That feels like the monster. And I came to this monster making out of watching kids have a tantrum in a store and parents giving in. They rewarded the monster. We, in giving in to our feelings of wanting to avoid or wanting to reward, giving in rewards the monster, rewards the pattern, keeps it wired in. So when a person decides, I have to change, they give in to the idea, they surrender to the idea that they have to let go of that old pattern. They have to do whatever it takes to build a new pattern. In the beginning, that years-long wired-in pattern is very automatic. It's just boom, it's there. We don't think. And it sets up for relapse. Unless we stop, make it absolute that, no, I can't do that old thing. But I don't know what to do that's different. It just, that in a sense is the monster. And that's the battle. taking a deep breath, slowing down, what's the new way I'm wanting to be more of, that I'm wanting to become, is not easy. But when it's in the beginning, people are expecting that it'll be hard. As time goes on, weeks, maybe even months, of really doing battle with this thing, people can start to feel able, confident, more comfortable, but can still have what I call waves. I lived near the coast for a while, and they referred to these rogue waves that people walking along the beach had to be very careful of, or needed to avoid being close to the beach, especially at stormy times. Well, if you make stormy times stressful times, this idea of a rogue wave that just comes in and washes over you and sweeps you out to sea, not only is real in real beaches, but can be real in the sense of sucking people back into the old pattern, because it's during those stressful times that the old pattern seems to gain some power again, unless we ride through that wave, take that deep breath, slow down, and go, no, I've got to do the new thing. Expect these waves, whether they're huge rogue waves or just waves of temptation at times like, depending on your pattern, weekends, slow times, stressed times, lonely times. The halt thing, don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and I add stressed, because those are the times that we're more vulnerable. Just before I retired, I had a client who had 3 or 4 years recovery and doing really well, but happened to stop at a convenience store and was just drawn to the beer and wine section. And one part of her said, no, what are you doing? What are you doing? Another part of her was reaching out before she stopped herself and remembered this idea of waves, and just like almost was in awe of how vulnerable a person can be even after being so committed for so long. But there was a lot going on in her life right at that point. So we can't stop these things from happening. We can stop our behavior. We can't stop the emotions, especially the tough ones at tough times. But that's really, in a sense, the job of just being human, is how do we be human? How do we do those right things, do this new thing that we're becoming, and not just follow the reactions? The waves over time will become less often and become generally less strong. But in a weird way, the power of this rogue wave idea is that, like the lady at the store, at the convenience store, when it came out of the blue, in a way that she never would have expected, it felt so huge that it almost felt like she couldn't resist it. It did, but boy, it was strong. And nothing like that had happened for months. So just know that it can. Know to really keep a focus on what's this new person you're becoming. And review the day. Review the positives, this thing that you're becoming, and appreciate what you've done. And also recognize that it's really normal, whether it's the wired in stuff or the stress issues that can pull you back to the temptation to an old pattern, the feeling of an old pattern. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but it does mean it can be hard not to. So if your issue is to avoid because of an anxiety, a fear-based threat-based kind of thing. Push yourself a little bit through. Know that you can get through tough times. If it's a reward-based thing that's gotten you into trouble, pull back from giving yourself that relief, that reward, that power, that feeling that in the past you loved until it caused so much harm that you decided you had to change. Become this new person that can get through these things. I wish I could tell you that it's an easy thing to do, but it's a proud thing as you do it. It feels good. And yeah, no, it just feels good. Okay. Hope you don't have too many, but expect you'll have some. Keep listening if it's been helpful for you. Thanks.